know you should invest regularly, avoid debt, and save for emergencies. But yet, why do so many people struggle with this? This is called the behavior gap, and I want to talk about it. The behavior gap is essentially the space between what you know you should do with your money and what you actually do with your money. And it's not about lacking information, it's about just being human. Paul Richards coined this term in his book, The Behavior Gap, and he used it to describe why people consistently make financial decisions that hurt their long-term wealth. You know you should buy low and sell high, but you panic during a market downturn and maybe you get greedy during a bubble. You know you should save more, but you spend impulsively when your emotions are running really high. And the psychology behind this is that your rational brain understands compound interest and managing your risk, but your emotional brain is still operating like you are hunting and gathering. It prioritizes immediate threats and rewards over these abstract future benefits that you might have one day. And this gap shows up everywhere in our lives. You see how so many people have been told you should diversify your portfolio, and yet they still chase hot stocks. People understand that timing the market is so difficult, but they try to do it anyway. Maybe debt is expensive, but you justify this purchase because just this once. It's all examples of the behavior gap in action. And what makes the behavior gap, particularly insidious, is that the financial industry often widens you the gap by making you feel stupid for just being human. They sell you really complex products when simple ones will work just as well. Maybe they shame you for making emotional decisions when your emotions are literally unavoidable in a lot of decisions. And the solution to all of this is not just willpower. It is designing systems that work with your psychology, not against it. For example, you could automate your investments so your emotions don't interfere. You could use separate accounts for different goals, or maybe you create friction for spending. Your behavior gap is not a flaw. It is a design feature of human psychology that is just mismatched with today's modern financial system. And it's something we all have. And if you're interested in learning more about closing your behavior gap, you should definitely read my newsletter, Your Brain on Money. And I talk about the psychological patterns that we all deal with weekly.